Welcome back, everyone, to the Elmore Leonard podcast. My name is Judd, here with Alex. Today we are talking about not Pronto, but Pronto. If you ask me, that's how it should be pronounced, because so much of this book takes place in Italy. This was a really fun read. It's a very quick, easy, exciting read, and it is the first book, the first full novel featuring your friend and mine, Mr. Raylan Givens.
Which is appropriate since the word pronto means first.
It
is, in Italian, it's what they say instead of hello on the phone.
Yeah, I thought primo.
I think pronto means first as well.
In Italian?
Yeah, let me...
Oh, boy.
Because, I think it dates to, like, the invention of the telephone. It's like... So whoever knows like what they're who to speak first.
I need you to walk me through this. So I call you. So we're in Italy in the 1920s, and I call you, and you pick up the phone.
Ready.
Huh. In Spanish, it means soon.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. So it means ready.
There's a great movie, Alex. I'm sure you've seen it, called Big Night, and if you haven't seen it, go see it. It's Tony Shalhoub, Stanley Tucci, Allison Janney, great cast. Two Italian chefs, restaurateurs working together. Their names are Primo and Segundo. And that's your free movie recommendation for the week. Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the only Elmore Leonard novel that features Ezra Pound's poetry in various spots. Would that be an accurate statement?
I believe that is accurate. But it is interesting because in the Cuba Libre episode, we talked about the kind of precursors to Hemingway.
Yeah.
And Hemingway was a contemporary of Ezra Pound, but Ezra Pound, early in their careers, Ezra Pound helped publish some Hemingway work. So he's related to Elmore as one of his early inspirations, which is Hemingway.
That is good to know. I did not know that Ezra Pound had committed treason during World War II, apparently, and that's one of the joys.
It feels almost like modern in its way that he had a crazy radio show that was pro-Hitler and espoused conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And then people tried to cancel him, just to be oh, we can't read his poetry. The guy thought Hitler was right.
Ezra Pound, the proto Alex Jones. But yeah, he's sprinkled throughout, and it is one of the things that I noticed. I got to read this in paperback form, which was always great, and so I always like to see when it's written, and there's the copyright of some Ezra Pound poetry, which sort of jumped out at me. But real quick, as we jump in, this book was published in, I believe, 93, 94?
93, yes.
93.
This was published right after Elmore's second wife, Joan, passed. She died kind of suddenly from cancer. And this was the last book while she was alive. And the dedication is for Joan, always. So he finished the book by the time she died, but added that dedication to her afterward. And there is some interesting kind of commentary about age in the book. Harry Arno, the main guy, he's 66 when we meet him at the start of the book, which was the age Elmore was when he started writing the book. But Harry has some thoughts about, retirement, and he says that he should have gotten out of the job, his sportsbook mob job at 65. And he says someone had picked that age as the best time to quit, whatever you were doing. And to me, it's a little even extra sad that Joan was 65 when she died.
Oh, I mean, even then, but especially now, we would consider that young. Well, here's to Joan, and let us dive in. So we start the book following Harry Arno, who is a bookie in Miami. And this is still, it feels like Miami is starting to turn a little bit, not quite as seedy as the Miami from...
Yeah, they mention it that it's the Miami of...
La Brava, maybe.
Of La Brava is quite different. It's a lot of the same locations. It's the same kind of hotels and, police station and park near the water. Yeah. It's all the same stuff. And we even have, Maurice Zola from La Brava. His apartment is now occupied by Harry.
And we learn that Maurice who, I mean, if you haven't read La Brava, for God's sake, go read La Brava. But one of the great moments in La Brava is the ending. We don't know how it's going to turn out for them, but
It's kind of like in Cuba Libre, where Boudreaux kind of doesn't begrudge Amelia trying to extort him. Maurice is kind of like, yeah, I don't care that Jean tried to take some money. I still like her.
Well, sure. Jean, however, and
way more devious.
She's
But I would
far
say
more
yes,
devious and dangerous.
if you haven't read La Brava, read that book. It's one of the best. And then also listen to Judd's conversation with Megan Abbott. That part of the episode where you guys talked about La Brava was incredible.
Oh yeah, she really knows and loves that book, and
then we'll do an episode, a deep dive on it as well. But that's Elmore's only book that won the Edgar Award. It's fantastic. So
it's a great book. It is a truly great book, and it was nice that, from what we know here, that Maurice died of natural causes. And
although I'm reading that thinking like, oh, she killed him. Like there's no evidence, but
right.
Immediately I think that he was killed.
There's some other folks here, and there's the Cardozo, which appears in Out of Sight, actually, but this predates Out of Sight by a handful of years, right?
Yes.
So that location shows up, and there's some other people. We'll get to them, but
there's like Wolfie's Deli that popped up in Rum Punch. So these locations have been in quite a few books. We've also got Jimmy Cap, the mob guy, and they talk about Ed Grassi from Gold Coast. Yeah, there's quite a few connections in this book.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Even the feds. We got even in the first chapter we've got Buck Torres. He's also from La Brava, and his superior McCormick, who's kind of a jerk, but he's also in La Brava as well.
There's a lot of great characters. Harry's an interesting one, and we should talk about him because he definitely takes a couple of turns throughout the book. We meet him.
I know he was written. He's the same age as Elmore, which Elmore consciously did. But there's a funny line at the start where Harry says that he's the same age as Paul Newman. So he's not that old. That's his justification. But it's like, well, okay, Paul Newman was born the same year as Elmore. Like that's just like a little joke. Elmore would follow the character, and the character of Harry is hilarious and like annoying, and he's a fully fleshed character. But when I read this book for the first time, I went to talk to Elmore about it, and he said to me, but he's also said numerous times that he picked the wrong guy. He thought that Harry was going to be the central character like Chili Palmer or Jack Foley, and he couldn't really go the distance. He's not central character material. So thankfully he had Raylan circling around who could kind of take over. Right. But he's not in there for the first few chapters.
He's not in it for a little while. And it's curious. I mean, I do wonder if it wasn't Raylan who was one of the supporting characters, one of the other characters, if Elmore would have stuck with Harry a little bit longer, because
he becomes more comic relief instead of the guy you care about surviving. He's just kind of funny, complaining, and
he definitely is, and he's in a funny position. The book starts off where he's a bookie in Miami, and one of his friends, who's not really friends but acquainted with a cop, and they get along well, and he basically says, "Hey, get my car. We gotta have a quick conversation." The gangster that Harry's been working for and skimming a little bit of money off the top of for decades is very likely going to be trying to go after Harry, and not because of anything Harry did. The FBI basically wants to use Harry as bait. So the way that they're doing it is they're trying to convince Jimmy Cap, the local gangster, they're trying to convince him to try to kill Harry, and if Jimmy Cap succeeds, then they can get Jimmy Cap on a murder charge. So pretty scumbag move on the part of McCormick. Buck's a local cop, doesn't want any part of it.
The cops / feds are not in the best light. I mean, thankfully Raylan is the moral center of the book, and he's a U.S. Marshal. But the other cops, like the way they talk about it, like if you're useful, they'll try to save your life, like stuff like that. Well,
Well, I think Buck. I actually thought Buck of it.
Buck isn't so bad, but
a pretty good guy. But McCormick is rough. So Harry's in a little bit of a pickle. He's trying to figure out what to do now.
But yeah, as you mentioned, though, it is funny that their plan is they'll make it look like Harry's skimming, but he already is. He's been skimming like for his entire career, and he's got you know over $1 million. But yeah, I think it's very funny that it's like, okay, well they didn't have to fake it. He really is stealing money from Jimmy Cab.
But they couldn't. You know, we hear a lot about how Harry works, and he has people working for him, working the phones. Harry records all of his calls, and we hear or we read some of what these conversations are like, and deciphering all that and trying to figure out who really bet what where. I mean, it would be really, really hard to prove what he's doing. Either way, they've already started this plan, and there's a local guy who's in trouble for drugs, who they've convinced to to basically claim that Harry stole $10,000 from from Jimmy Cap,
and like didn't report the bet. So the implication is if he's not reporting this, then he's been stealing all kinds of money, possibly. So
how many more of these?
And I think it's like an honor thing for these old mob guys. Like, if somebody's lying to you, then you can't trust them. So
yeah, but that's something we'll get into that when we talk about Jimmy and some of the other people that he hangs around with. He seems to tolerate all kinds of shenanigans, but Harry did have a plan. He's 66. He did have a plan to leave the business and retire at 65, and he stuck around making even more money. So he's ready to go, but this is really the push. The big question for him is, does he take his girlfriend Joyce, who is a lovely gal? She's about 20 years younger than he is, maybe more.
They say she's almost 40.
Almost 40. Starts. She's a catalog model, occasional topless dancer.
Well, they say, when they met 10 years ago, she was a stripper who performed to Led Zeppelin, and she was the only stripper that Harry had ever seen who kept her glasses on while dancing.
I have enough trouble keeping my glasses on during the recording of a podcast, so that's impressive if she could do it while
maybe
stripping.
She has those, the croquis?
Yes.
She could hide it in her hair, I'm sure.
She could hide it. So Harry's in a jam. He's got to figure out what exactly to do.
But he does. His plan involves going back to Italy. And there's a recurring kind of joke where Harry says, I want to tell you something I've never told anybody.
Right.
And Joyce in the first chapter is like, oh, you mean in Italy when you killed the deserter?
Yeah. Yeah. Straight away. It happens a couple of times. And
because, he does the same thing to like a bartender and to Raylan 6 years ago. And
right. And so he's sort of getting ready to go. He's got his bags packed and all of that. He's basically decided this has to happen. He's got to leave town. He wants to tell Joyce about it. He wants to, go over to her place. He could walk over. He decides to drive over on a way to get his car. Someone's waiting for him. Pulls a gun. Harry's carrying a gun, the same gun he used during World War II to shoot a deserter, and he blows him away. But
like it says the guy's wearing like a crumpled suit coat over overalls and work boots, and he has false teeth.
And he's another old friend from from the extended Crow family.
Yes.
From up near Lake Okeechobee.
This one is Earl Crow, age 53. I'm not exactly sure. I imagine that he's brothers with Roland Crow and Dale Crow.
Was he also in La Brava? Did he help out Richard at some point?
Let me look at
it because there's definitely some crows in La Brava. So he tells Buck and he tells Joyce, and he gets arrested. He's got a terrible lawyer, and now he's really in a jam because he's got the cops and the feds trying to
So Harry. Yeah, Harry kills this guy and, tells his friend Buck Torres what happened. And he's like, this is self-defense. But he spends the night in the county lockup. And then the next day, which is pretty funny, he tells a detective it's just as easy to cook eggs the right way, which is something that Elmore said after spending a night in jail. He kind of ribbed the cops saying, hey, those eggs were terrible. It's just as easy to do it the right way.
Yeah.
So to me, this was another moment of like, oh, well, Elmore sees some of, this early book, he sees some of himself in Harry. I feel like there's a divergence point in Italy that I'll talk about, but I think early book, I think Elmore was thinking, for a change, I'm going to write a character who's my age, who, is from my generation, was served in World War II. Like, there's all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think he underestimated the force of Harry's annoyance.
Well, I mean, I think it's a fun thing to think about. Like, what was it that that made him want to step away? Maybe he just felt like he was opening up too much and saying too many personal things, and maybe that was a distraction. So he does get arrested. He's got a terrible lawyer. Now, the guy did have a gun when Harry shot him, but by the time the cops come, they can't find the gun. So Harry's claim of self-defense doesn't really work. His lawyer doesn't really do a good job of advocating for him at all. So he knows he's in a jam with the gangster Jimmy Cap. He's now been arrested. They let him out on bail of $150,000. So like they are treating this really seriously. One of the gangsters, it was his wife. It was Harry's ex-wife who bailed him out, and Harry thought it might have been Joyce, but he knows he doesn't. He knows she doesn't have the money, but it was his ex-wife who basically the gangsters forced to give the deed to her house as collateral.
And it was Tommy. It was Tommy Bucks.
Tommy Bucks.
Who went to Chicago, pressured the ex-wife Teresa, and Tommy showed up at Harry's apartment with the guy in drug trouble, Kenneth, who was the plant from McCormick. But Tommy is kind of the recurring villain. And yeah, his nickname is Tommy Bucks because he's a good dresser. They say he always looks like $1 million. But they also refer to him as the Zip.
Yeah.
And the Zip is just like a slang term for like kind of hitman or like, guy that they would call over from the old country to do a kill.
He seems like he is of a previous generation of gangsters. We learn a little bit about Jimmy Cap and some of the people that work for him, and there's a really young guy named Nicky. And the Zip does seem to be a bit of a throwback.
Well, Harry describes him as the guy could be a peasant right out of the fucking Middle Ages. Like, I think he means that he's kind of a brute. But more commonly, he dresses like in 1930s gangster suits.
Yeah, he's a stylish dude.
And then the counterpoint to him is the guy we've mentioned numerous times, Raylan Givens.
Yeah.
And he also is from a previous era. And this is, I think, the first time that Elmore has taken a guy that would be in one of his early career westerns and plopped him right in the middle of one of his modern crime stories. Yeah, Raylan is probably most known from the TV show Justified, which was based on this book and Writing the Rap and a short story called Fire in the Hole. And this book, Pronto, is his first appearance.
He's also, and this is, I'm not sure if this, I know this from Cooler Than Cool, Chad Cushion's biography, or other random conversations, perhaps with Peter or with you, Alex, but Raylan Givens was actually, Elmore got the name from a book show where he was signing books, sitting down, someone came up to him and was like, make it out to Raylan Givens.
I believe it was a different last name. I think the name was Raylan Davis. But Elmore loved the name Raylan so much, so he kind of retooled the surname, and there it is.
It worked. Harry gets bailed out of jail. He goes out for Chinese. Despite the circumstances, there is a lightness to this story. It does move. Or they're having Chinese takeout at back at Harry's apartment.
Yeah, Harry and Joyce are.
Harry and Joyce are. She's a little annoyed. She never knew that Harry was married.
Yeah, interesting. When I was reading this again, I was like, oh yeah, Joyce and Therese. Harry's ex-wife and his current girlfriend. And those are the names of Elmore's third wife, Christine. Her sisters are Joyce and Therese. But the timeline it's just a coincidence. So.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. I believe this book was published right around the time that Elmore married Christine, but it was certainly finished months before that. So
interesting. So Harry is annoyed about having been arrested. He knows he's going to have to pay back his ex-wife, and he does, call her and tell her he's going to pay her back. He's more worried about Jimmy Cap, and so he's really aware of his surroundings, and basically Joyce noticed that there was someone hanging around in the lobby, someone wearing a cowboy hat. And Harry basically assumes that he's there to help him or protect him or something. So he asks her to go downstairs, bring him up so they can talk.
Well, I like the description of his cowboy hat, though, because Elmore was kind of preoccupied with it because the show changed the look of the hat.
Yeah.
They do describe it numerous times, and Joyce describes it as, says, it's like the hats the cops wore when Jack Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald. So you can kind of Google that and see these. They describe it as like a businessman's cowboy hat.
I think
it's a little more stuffy than the Raylan on TV has more of kind of a cool looking cowboy hat. It's not quite as dopey as the Raylan from the book, but I'm with Elmore. I kind of prefer the look of the businessman's Stetson.
I think it works great in the show, but
it looks more country, less Indiana Jones. It's like
right. So in walks Raylan Givens, who we all know from Justified and among other work, and he is a deputy U.S. Marshal. He is there to keep an eye on Harry, but not only that, he already knows Harry. Harry had slipped out of Raylan's grasp once before on some court case that never really went anywhere. There was a grand jury, and Raylan's still a little annoyed by it.
Did it remind you at all of Karen Sisko and Glenn from Out of Sight? The marshal who has met the transportee before?
Now that you say it, for sure. Not in the moment. Just
the dynamics are way different. No,
yeah. And Glenn is not. I mean, Harry's more fully formed, I think, than Glenn. Glenn we get a little bit of here and there, but not too much of him.
It's funny that Harry doesn't really remember him. I guess he does eventually, but because
this is a theme where when he was drinking, Harry is not drinking. He stopped drinking, and so there's a lot of stories he doesn't remember telling people. And so
including his deepest, darkest secret of shooting the deserter.
He
told Raylan that 6 years ago.
And he told Joyce that not only once before, but twice before, she says. So yeah, and you're sort of just waiting now. And there's a really funny moment. There's some really funny descriptions where Harry would, when he was still drinking, he'd wake up horny every morning while hungover, which sounds terrible, but God bless. So
Raylan is a little salty though, because he's transporting Harry. Harry flees in the middle. They're supposed to go to Chicago, and Harry flees in Atlanta, and that has derailed Raylan's career.
Yeah.
He's been like stagnant in what he's doing, even though he's, by every account, he's a great shot. He's kind of a loyal, smart guy, but Harry has kind of screwed his career, and now he's back on a Harry detail.
So this is a chance for Raylan to redeem himself. Harry's in a tough spot because basically, if he goes to prison, which is what the marshal is there to do, is make sure that he goes to prison because he's out on bond, that he shows up for all of his court dates. He's stuck. And so Harry tells Joyce he's going to run. He's got a bunch of money. He's not going to say where. He wants to get out of town, get settled in, doesn't want to put her in a bad position, and he also doesn't really know if he wants her to come. He's a little hot and cold with her. And
he says he always thought maybe he could do better.
Right. Yeah. Maybe you can, Harry. Maybe you can.
It's later in the book, Joyce says something similar, like maybe I could have always done better than Harry.
Yes, for sure. Harry and Raylan head out to Joe's Stone Crab, which is a huge institution in Miami. I think there's a chain of them, but I feel like I used to see a lot more of them than they do now. But they're having a meal where we learn a lot about Raylan, his background. He grew up in Harlan County, Kentucky. He had family working in the mines. He had a brother killed by gun thugs who were people working for the mining companies to break strikes and intimidate people and all that.
Did you see that movie, Harlan County, USA?
Sure. Yeah. The documentary?
Yeah, it's a documentary because Elmore was like the inspiration for Raylan's backstory.
Oh, interesting.
Which, if you haven't seen it, people, it's the Criterion Collection put out at least a DVD. I mean, this was ages ago. I don't know if they still have the rights to it, but it's a very interesting movie. It's just about these miners.
Very funny. Very funny.
And it's pretty grueling too. I just mean like the stuff that they got to go through and deal with the black lung.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's crazy. So Raylan also was in the Marine Corps. He does have 2 kids. He is getting divorced. But yeah, after he lost Harry at the airport, he had basically got stuck being a firearms instructor for the Marshals, and so he's a hell of a shot, and he knows it comes into play. I mean, he's very confident around guns, and he's very confident sizing up other people, and when they may or may not be using a gun against him. And so they're relaxing. He's sort of lost in thought, and Harry gets up, goes to the bathroom, and ditches him again.
Raylan's too good-natured. He just thinks there's no way he'd do it again.
Yeah, there's no way. And so Raylan is now in trouble again.
I love the scene in Harry's apartment, though, where McCormick, they're all looking for clues. And Raylan, you get a peek into his brain from the narration, from the free and direct discourse, where he says, maybe Harry was taken against his will. And they're like, in his own car. And then Raylan says something like, damn, should have thought this through better.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, the Marshals are not really investigators. They're there to hunt people down who, just like Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive. He's there to get Harrison Ford. He's not there to figure out, well, did Harrison Ford do it or not? It's like,
I don't care. Is that what he said?
He says, yeah. There's a famous scene at the waterfall where he's like, I didn't kill my wife. And he's like, yeah, I don't care. I gotta bring you in. So this is a younger, less polished Raylan for sure. So Raylan's in trouble. The gangsters, the Zip and Jimmy, they're also trying to figure out what to do. Jimmy knows he's under surveillance, so they sort of have these coded conversation. Jimmy, eventually they have to do things in person. We meet Jimmy's girlfriend, Gloria. Jimmy has a little assistant, Nikki, Testa, and I'm pretty sure there are some Testas in the Carl Webster stories, who are also gangsters. I didn't get a chance to scrub through those books, but the name jumped out. So I think
when we get to the Hot Kid books, we'll keep an eye out. But yeah, it says Nikki Testa is 24 and he's from Atlantic City.
Yeah.
And Gloria is 22. That's Jimmy Cap's young girlfriend.
His young floozy. The Zip is pretty confident that, the way that Gloria flirts with the Zip, he's confident she's also hooking up with Nikki.
He kind of can't believe the lack of respect that she is basically flirting and, just acting dumb in front of the boss, because he's old school. Right.
And I had a little issue with a little quibble from me, just in terms of how much Jimmy tolerates from the people around him. But we'll get back to that. So Raylan's in trouble. He
does mention it. Yeah. We'll talk about it later. But he does that. You get a peek into his mind of why he does later.
Yeah. Well, we'll hit that then. So Raylan is trying to figure out. He is sort of trying to play out this theory of like, well, maybe he was kidnapped. Maybe he was. So who would have taken him? And he ends up following the Zip over to Joyce's place. Joyce is about to let him in. Raylan tackles him from behind, kind of sits on his chest, pulls out his gun, warns him not to come back.
He says he says roll on your tummy. He also says keep still or I'll shoot your nose off your face.
Yeah.
This to me is the real audition chapter where Raylan shows that he is main character material.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a connection between Raylan and Joyce. Raylan goes to see Buck to see if they can get some kind of protection for Joyce. Buck says maybe, maybe not. But we have some news. Harry is he's in Italy, and turns out he had a second passport. He changed his name, so his name is Harry Arno, A-R-N-O, but his birth name was A-R-N-A-U-D. But he had both passports, and that's what he flew away with. So they know exactly where he is. He's in Italy. But, the Zip he's not done with Joyce, so he tells young Nikki to start following her around. Raylan, on the other hand, has some redeeming of himself to do. He This is the second time he's lost Harry Arno. It could be the end of his career or the end of his career in the field. He doesn't want to end up just being a shooting instructor. So he goes to the bail bondsman, or in this case bail bondswoman, who put the bond up on Harry, and if Harry doesn't show up back in court, they're going to lose $150,000. So Raylan makes a deal with them. Send me to Italy, pay my expenses, and I'll bring him back. You don't have to pay me to do it, but you could just pay my expenses and I'll bring him back and you save $150,000. So they agree. So Raylan is en route to Italy. Over in Italy, Harry is getting comfortable. He's making friends, or at least trying to. There's a beautiful young woman, or at least a beautiful woman far too young for Harry, named Maura. And they start chatting, and very quickly Harry is telling her about his villa, and does she want to go see it, and help him redecorate, and all of the things. And they have a nice little exchange, but she's just not biting for any of Harry's charm. And it's basically when she turns him down that he decides that he might need to reach out to Joyce. So maybe Joyce is, considering no one in Italy wants him, maybe Joyce is the one for him after all.
It's another one of those great Elmore chapters, though, where it's pretty self-contained, but a lesser author would try to involve this lady in some sort of circular plan or blackmail, or she works with the mob. But to Elmore, it's just like a fun chapter that kind of shows like how shallow Harry is, because as soon as one conversation with a woman doesn't work, he's like, I need Joyce here. And then immediately on the phone, he's like, I miss you, Joyce. I need you. Hey, do you know my favorite aftershave? Can you bring a few bottles? It's so great. Harry in the beginning to me seems like an Elmore cipher, but this is the part where Harry and Elmore diverge, I think, because we have Harry in Italy. He's kind of getting his way at this certain point. He's escaped. He's living his dream, but he kind of decides to drink again, even though he's had a major problem with alcohol. And to me, this is like, okay, Elmore is not this guy. He's writing like, all right, if I was old and if I was still drinking and complaining and not liking what I'm doing, this would be the guy that I am.
Well, it is an interesting, turn, because once he gets to Italy and once he starts drinking, Harry does pretty quickly become quite annoying. And as he gets into more and more danger, we don't really care if Harry gets shot and killed, but we don't want the people around him to get hurt. So it's a fun way to play with all that jeopardy. Somebody else who is in Harry's circle now is a gentleman named Robert G. He's former U.S. military. He was in the French Foreign Legion. Harry assumes correctly that he's probably not too safe, so he's thinking that maybe Robert G. can help watch his back. And also, remember the Zip is from Italy and still has a lot of local connections, so he will have a lot of help on the ground. So, as great as Raylan may be, he is now playing on someone else's turf. So Robert G., we think, is going to join the payroll, but in the meantime, back in Florida, the Zip, Jimmy Cap, all of our favorite gangsters are trying to figure out.
Joe Macho. There's quite a few nicknames flown around for these guys.
Yeah, Nicky is known as Joe Macho. He is subjected to all sorts of what he thinks are Italian nicknames, but as he will find out, they are not friendly nicknames. But they essentially track down, this is pre-Expedia.com, so they track down the travel agent that Harry used and figure out that Joyce went to London, assume she's on her way someplace else, but basically the Zip and Nicky head over to Italy, and then Raylan and Buck figure that out, and so he knows he better hurry up and get over there. So Joyce does arrive, and Robert meets her at the hotel. Quick question. So we've just landed in Italy, but it's important to make sure that all the connections to Detroit are underscored and pointed out. Is there a Hotel Cavour in Detroit.
There is not. I would imagine that all the Italian hotels and cafes are actual places.
There's a great section as Joyce is getting settled in to Italy that we get. Elmore gives us a little peek into her mindset. I'm gonna share with everybody. She waited, wondering if she should unpack, if Harry was here in Milan, if he had really sent the black guy Robert, if her electric curlers would work in the bathroom outlet. Robert, by the way, yes, is black. Throughout, I mean, I would say this about this book. There's so many chunks like that are so funny, so evocative, and it really, really keeps things moving. But Joyce she's in a pickle. Nikki and the Zip, because
Joyce fears for her life in Miami, so she's not just going to Italy to see Harry. She's also trying to protect herself.
That is true, but there's also like the promise of some sort of happy retirement with Harry, and Harry was never a prince, never the perfect guy, so it's sort of, she does kind of end up there. Yeah. And we know that she's being followed by Nikki and the Zip, who is far more comfortable in Italy than in Miami. Has got all kinds of resources.
He's from Italy, so fluently speaks the language. He's got his old, gangster crew. Nikki is more,
Nikki's a
third
tourist.
generation Italian, so he doesn't speak Italian, not even like the swear words. Like, he really knows nothing.
He knows nothing, but the Zip
I love the chapter with Nikki saying, thinking of all the things he's going to tell Gloria, Jimmy Cap's girlfriend. I'm going to tell her about, all these guys keep speaking Italian and kissing each other on the cheeks, and, they don't even mention me. And, I love that chapter. It's very funny. All parties now have converged on Italy, and we're into like the second section of this book, which happens quite a bit in Elmore books, jump locations.
Nikki and the Zip, they're following Jay. They do know exactly where Harry is. They're following Jay. They're following Joyce. They do know exactly where Harry is, and Nikki hasn't really proved himself in any way. He's basically a gopher. He's telling Nikki, "You're the one who's going to shoot Harry," but Nikki is also thinking, "Well, maybe I'll shoot Harry, maybe I won't, but I definitely want to shoot you." Raylan also does show up, and
I liked Raylan. Yeah, getting like some Wendy's hamburgers at the train station in Italy. And are you familiar with the Carabinieri, the Italian like military police?
I've been to Rome once and remember most of it. But
there's two different types of cops. There's like the regular like polizia guys, and they're kind of a joke in Italy. And then there's the Carabinieri who are dressed in blue and they carry swords, and that's the guy that Raylan, he goes up to these guys and say, "Hey, you ever use these swords?" I remember them because when I was studying abroad in Venice in 2008, me and my Italian roommates were in one of the campos and we were playing wiffle ball, just like, a little, quick pickup game. And the policia came and they're like, "All right, enough of that, go home." And all the Italians were like, "Okay," and just like ignored it. They're just like, "Okay, bye." And then 20 minutes later, the Carabinieri came and said, "Stop playing this game. You must be." And all the Italians like were nowhere to be seen, completely freaked out and fled. And I was like, okay, well that is like the quickest explanation for like the deal with these guys.
Strict wiffle ball rules in Venice. Yeah, and just like we had in Cuba Libre, the cowboy meeting old Europe, we have Raylan in Italy, and he's making his way. Raylan finds his way to Rapallo, which is the small town that Harry had been stationed in during World War II in the aftermath. And
he runs into like the Ezra Pound kind of memorial plaque.
Yeah, he's not so impressed.
Exactly. He's like, because he even says, I think it's a little later, but he says that after, Harry skipped town on him, but Harry had told him about all this Italy stuff, including that Harry had run into Ezra Pound and, loved his work. And so Raylan says that he looked up some of his poems and he didn't understand them. He said, "Maybe I'm not smart enough."
Not a fan. But Harry is in his villa. He is waiting for Joyce to show up. He knows he's
complaining to Robert G. about how it's too drafty and depressing. And he has a library full of books, but they're all in Italian.
I mean, I guess one of the things that is kind of curious about Harry is that it's remarked on a couple of times that this was sort of Harry's dream to go to this villa in Italy, in this town, and live the good life. But he's there for a couple weeks already. He's there for a little while. It's not to his liking.
There's so many. I love where it's like Harry liked the espresso, but he wished it lasted a little longer.
Yeah,
it's
it was only
just fundamental things like that where you're like, Harry, I don't think you really like Italy.
it's only a couple of sips and then it's all gone. And maybe he doesn't know that how quickly he's going to be in danger. But it's just like, why wouldn't he go someplace else? He's got the money. I think it's all in some. I don't know if it's on him or in some kind of Swiss bank account or Cayman Islands or something like that. But he's got the resources to do it. But he doesn't. He sort of sticks around. Raylan does find Joyce. They chat, but then Nikki shows up and tries to grab her. But Raylan is there and pulls a gun on Nikki, and now Nikki wants to kill Raylan. So our characters are starting to meet up. They're starting to bump up against each other, and there will only be more friction from here on out.
And this is the first part where Raylan even tells Tommy that Harry's innocent, that the whole thing was a setup, and he's hoping that maybe these guys will back off and he can just bring Harry back to America. But Tommy doesn't seem to care. He still wants to kill Harry.
Yeah, there is an element of like, how does dealing with Harry fit into the mob scene in Miami, the relationship between the Zip and Jimmy Cap and Nikki. So that's all part of the undercurrent. Robert G brings Joyce over to Harry's villa. Harry's not concerned about the situation, and there's a part of him where he kind of thinks that Robert is trying to get a raise by saying that Harry should be careful with everything going on.
Some of the parts where Harry is like the most annoying in the whole book.
Yeah,
Robert's just trying to help him.
Right, and right away, Joyce knows that Harry's drinking again. And because she knows how he is and how forgetful he is about what he's saying to who, and we know this already, it's like, if you've been drinking, you've not been quiet. You've not been discreet.
It's another one of my favorite Harry things where Joyce tells him all the people who are around and looking for him, and he says, "You brought a whole convention with you." And then in the narration, Joyce says, "That sounded more like the old Harry, who could piss you off without even trying."
But then she's totally right. I mean, Raylan starts looking for Harry. He ends up at a bar, and the bartender knows Harry and the villa. And we find out that Harry actually drew a map for the bartender showing where it was. So we know that they're going to have to get out of there. They're going to have to move because the Zip and Nikki have resources. They know where they are. And Nikki actually is following, he sees Raylan, but Raylan calls him out and Nikki backs down. So Raylan goes, rents a car. He heads over to Joyce's hotel, gets her things.
And already by this point, he's like thinking about her, and he gets her things in a kind of a bid to impress her.
But Nikki is following Raylan, whether he knows it or not. He doesn't seem to slow him down at all, which is totally fine. Basically, the Zip offers Raylan, catches up with Raylan at a little cafe or something like that, and offers him money to leave, a few million lira, which is, I think they say in the book it's about 25 grand or something like that. But Raylan says no.
He's a little different than your friend Chris Mankowski.
Well,
because he offers him $25,000 just to like not bring Harry back. He doesn't say do anything shady besides like go away.
Doesn't have to do anything. Doesn't have to jump into a swimming pool. Yeah. Doesn't have to set any bombs or take any bombs apart. Yeah. Chris would probably go for it, but who knows? Maybe Chris would be sweet on Joyce, and then we would be stuck. We start to hear a lot. We've heard a little bit about Raylan, but in these chapters, we get to know a lot about.
Well, yeah, Nikki has been foiled he's tried to shoot Raylan twice at this point, and Tommy says, well, he's right there. Why don't you go kill him now? And the other Italians have been kind of laughing at Nicky for being ineffectual.
Yeah.
So Nicky walks up thinking, I'm going to go shoot Raylan, and Raylan gives him a short speech about how he grew up in a coal mine town and he's had to deal with all this violence, and his uncle was killed right in front of him, and he basically says, if you come at me with a gun... Right? Was it the brother? But he basically says, if you come at me with a gun, I'll shoot first and you'll die.
Yeah, and he has a gun. During this conversation, he flew over to Italy with 2 guns and apparently plenty of ammunition in his luggage, and so he scares Nicky off. Nicky and the Zip do have backup. Fabrizio is sort of the main local guy they're dealing with. He and Nicky chase Raylan. He's kind of a large man. He's a bigger guy. He kind of lets them catch him.
This section has a lot of Western elements. I love the description that it's in Raylan's head, but it's so Elmore classic Western, where he says he's leading these guys through what he would call a hogback ridge that sloped to valleys choked with brush. That could be a line from Hombre.
For sure. It's very, and they're out. I mean, Rapallo is a small little town, and they're kind of on their way there, and so there's plenty of countryside, and the scene is sort of a classic. I know it was used in Justified. I don't remember when exactly it was used, but pretty early in, I think it was the 4th episode, this exact shootout happens where Raylan says he's got his car parked and these 2 guys are trying to walk up close to him to get him, and he says, if you take one more step, I'm going to shoot you. You've got the older, confident guy, and the younger guy's not really sure what to do. And this is something I should have asked this way sooner than this. Alex, have you seen the television movie Pronto, starring James LeGros and our dear friend Peter Falk?
I've not. I think Peter Falk as Harry Arno sounds great, but
it's pretty great.
It's a difficult TV movie to see. It's never, to my knowledge, been officially released, maybe like a VHS release right when it came out, but I don't think it's ever been re-released.
I've seen chunks of it on YouTube, and I actually think we've got a link to the trailer, or at least a scene from it, in our Elmore Trailers playlist on our YouTube channel, which is worth seeing. But I haven't seen the whole movie, but... Maybe
we'll do if I can track it down, why don't we do an episode about it?
Oh, we must. But Raylan, after he's given Fabrizio plenty of warning, he shoots him and tells Nicky to collect the body and get rid of him. It's now on. Raylan has now not just ignored the Zip's offer to walk away, he's killed one of his guys. So
rereading this, it's interesting that this is the first guy that Raylan kills. I think from watching Justified and writing the rap, I always assumed that Raylan was like mid-career, and that this is just one of the many people he's put down. But he says later this that was the first time I killed somebody. So
that's right.
It's kind of amazing that the confidence that he had, if it's the only guy he's ever shot. Oh, and I do love the excuse me. I love the interaction when Nicky goes back with Fabrizio's body and he talks to Tommy. It's so classic Elmore. Tommy says, "Why didn't you shoot?" And Nicky says, "I told you. Fabrizio said don't shoot." I mean, while he was shooting Fabrizio, it would be okay then, wouldn't it? What would? To shoot him. It's just like...
Nicky is kind of useless. He doesn't even there's sort of a wicked touch where he drives Fabrizio's body back to the Zips, and Fabrizio's eyes are open, and everyone is sort of commenting like, he didn't even close the guy's eyes. Like, he's... This
was kind of interesting reading this now. Like, Nicky, to me, in this post kind of Sopranos world, or even post Jersey Shore world, he seems like a stock character. But for 93, I don't know what other this type of Italian young guy representation there was. So I think I want to give Elmore a little more credit for it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I don't think he's a bad character. I think.
I wasn't trying to say that you were saying that. It's more like he doesn't get as many of the big scenes, but I still think he's an interesting member of the cast.
He's fun. Yeah, there's definitely a Christopher Moltisanti vibe. I was thinking a lot about, obviously Sopranos came out well after the book. came out, but there's in the second season of The Sopranos, there's I think it's the third or fourth episode where Tony and Paulie and Christopher go to Italy. There's
It's so good. It's one of the best.
It's one of the best episodes. It's like a little movie. I was thinking about that a lot during some of these scenes. It's really great. So
Just
Nikki,
these kind of like phony Italian people going back to the old country and thinking that they'll be welcomed and not.
yeah,
like
no, they're
complete foreigners. There's definitely Nikki aspects of Nikki in that.
one of my favorite little moments in that is where Paulie Walnuts is sitting at a cafe in Italy, and he's surrounded by all these older guys sitting and talking Italian, and he tries to say hello to someone sitting at the next table.
Commendatore.
Yeah, and the other guy just rolls his eyes and ignores him like, you buffoon. And then, but
sucker.
yeah, but that guy, it turned out to be that's David Chase, the showrunner from The Sopranos. So anyway, okay, so Raylan finds Harry's villa. He's got Joyce's stuff.
The scene is the next day. They kind of say that Raylan walked up to the place. Robert thought he might be an intruder and fired a shot, which barely missed Raylan.
Yeah. So
but they've all kind of connected by the time that we meet up with them. So they're all on the same page. Raylan and Robert kind of hit it off.
They've both been in the military. They know that they're basically sitting ducks if they have to stay at the villa.
This reminded me of the book The Hunted, the Elmore book from the late 70s, where it's the same kind of thing, actually, where like the main guy, Rosen, in that one is kind of like Harry, where it's somebody trying to hide out.
Retired mob guy.
And in that one, in The Hunted, they basically stake out this house they're in at the end, and the bad guys try to get them, and they hold their ground.
Yeah.
So I like that in this version of it, Raylan and Robert are like, "Oh no, way too many holes. Like we got to get out of here."
Yeah. And they're pretty isolated, and they know they're outnumbered.
I love this section too, where they're all just kind of hanging out in the villa, but they talk a lot about Ezra Pound.
Yeah.
We mentioned it before, like his history as basically being like an anti-Semite who's pro-Hitler.
Right. And Mussolini.
One aspect I thought was very interesting is Harry's defending Ezra Pound. He's a huge fan, but like it seems like most people are doubting if Harry understands it. But I like that Raylan says it doesn't matter if he understands it or not. He likes the guy.
Yeah.
I was like, Raylan is like way more compassionate, and because of that, he's more intelligent. But one thing I found extra interesting is they're talking about Ezra Pound, and Joyce says he's an anti-Semite. He did, she's listing all these things, and Harry says, well, he renounced all that.
Yeah.
And Harry also is talking about the cantos, the epic poem that Pound wrote for decades. Mm-hmm. And Harry thinks it's brilliant, but Joyce also says that, in his later in life, he said that the cantos were nonsense.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me that Harry believes that he's renounced his political views, his like Nazism, his fascism, but he ignores that Pound has renounced his poetry. I'm like, that's perfect. That's like the most, just selective, don't listen to him on this, listen to him on this.
And that's kind of who Harry is. I mean, he's doing that really with everybody, where he'll take a little bit of, he does think he's smarter than most people, and I mean, he has been skimming from gangsters for years. And is pretty comfortable saying it, like, they'll never catch me. They don't know.
I think he's just like a selfish guy. He's just very self-centered. I think everything that he does is true to that.
But we do get a sense, as because I guess Harry or Joyce brought a tape of some of Harry's old bookie action, and Joyce plays it on a tape recorder they find. And it's kind of wild. I mean, I've never...
Well, I like she's making fun of him. She's like, what, you were in this villa and you're just listening to your old tapes of your, like, bookie life? And he's like, I only did that once.
They're kind of doing this over breakfast. Harry is drinking again. He is getting meaner. Robert, that part of the plan is for Robert to go get a bigger car. I guess that they can all fit in. Raylan is there in a Fiat. And
the mob connections around here are like pretty dense, and they're very effective, which I think is an interesting part of the book as well. That the local mafia is well run. Like they seem to have a tail on whoever they want. They watch the streets. I like that Robert's secret plan when he picked up Joyce a few chapters ago. Like the Italian mob guys saw the whole thing. They they didn't, Robert was like, I'll do this. And if anybody's tailing you, and it's like he didn't notice that they were tailing them. Like, I find that very interesting.
It's great that they're good at what they do. Yeah. And these are collectively, these are all really good villains. I mean, they stake things out. They plan ahead. There's, the Zip figures out pretty much where they are because they have a handful of guys staking out the road looking for a car, and they all have walkie-talkies, and the guy at the end of the road, out of town, out of Rapallo, didn't see him drive by, so they figure, well, he's still in town. Robert goes off to rent a car, but not before Harry just sort of goes full asshole and basically, pisses him off. Robert's going to quit anyway, but Harry does give him a credit card to rent the car with it. He gives him some cash to, just make him whole for the week or the month or however long, whatever his back pay is. So Robert takes off. We do hear more about as they're talking about Ezra Pound and the poetry, and we get to hear some of it, and some of it is very hard to track.
The poetry? You mean like the ant is a centaur in his dragon world, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Elmore, I would think that his opinion of this stuff is closer to what Raylan thinks. Maybe it's a little over my head. He wasn't really. I mean, he was, I would say, very well read, but I don't think poetry was one of his favorite things.
Is there chit-chatting about the virtues or lack thereof of Ezra Pound? Raylan notices a Mercedes driving by. Who might that be? Could it be Robert G, or the Zip and some of his guys? So they're trying to sort it all out, and as they are, and Raylan is sitting there with Harry and Joyce, and he's kind of deciding that he likes her. The Mercedes returns, but we don't know exactly what happens because we cut over to Robert G, who's he's ready to quit. We hear about other jobs he's quit from, and what is Robert going to do with the rest of his life after this. Robert's a good guy. I mean, he and Raylan have an exchange where they talk about Robert getting kind of picked up by the Zip. Raylan just asks him, like, what would you do? What are you going to tell them? And Robert basically, he sort of hints at it, like, what kind of question is that? And then later on, it's confirmed that, like, yeah, he doesn't want to give them up, but he's not going to die for Harry. He's known Harry for about a month.
Well, yeah, and Raylan says he wouldn't blame him anyway.
Yeah, Harry expects loyalty from someone he's paying a few $100 a week, but it's not a reasonable expectation. And so he's trying to figure it out as he is. He's at the car rental place. He picks out a Mercedes, and as soon as he rents it and walks to the car, there's a couple of mob guys waiting for him. So
that's what I'm saying. They really have the town on lock.
At the villa, Harry's asleep, and Joyce and Raylan, they decide, all right, let's just hold tight. They've got guns. They wake up Harry, and as they're all kind of trying to figure out a game plan, a couple of people break in. They've been sort of scoping the place. They go into the backyard, looking around. It's two guys. Raylan gets the drop on them, disarms them. Marco and Benno are the two guys who are trying to kill them, basically. Raylan has the drop on them. Raylan approached him and took the automatic the man had stuck in his waist. Raylan said to the one with the shotgun, "You hear me? Put it on the floor, now." He still didn't move. The one in the striped shirt said, "Marco don't speak English." Raylan reached over with his combat mag, held the revolver pointed at Marco's ear, and cocked it. "He understand that?" Marco stooped and placed the shotgun on the floor as the one in the striped shirt said, "He knows a few words."
That's great.
It's awesome.
There's another good Raylan moment when they're getting ready, and basically Raylan glances at Joyce's ass, and he says something like, "It's amazing the things you think of when you never thought you would."
Right.
I'm just like...
It reminds me a lot of Out of Sight. It does feel like whenever Elmore wants to shift into a specific gear, he does it very, he just does it perfectly. So
Raylan basically turns the tables on these guys and marches them outside, and
right.
He kind of he forces them to use their car phone so he can
so they call. He gets Nikki on the phone. Basically what he wants to do is trade Benno and Marco for Robert G, and he knows that they probably have him. Whether or not the Zip is going to go for that, we don't know. But they tie up Benno and Marco leave them in the garage. They hit the road. On the way, they find another guy waiting for them. And Raylan finds him, ties him up. Basically, he tells Harry and Joyce to just keep going. And Raylan is going to stick around, and he's going to find Robert G. and get him back. So he takes the car from the lookout. The Zip and Nikki are getting ready. They have Robert
I like the
G.
conversation that they talk, though. They talk about how Jimmy Cap's predecessor, Ed Grassi, how he died. And this is a scene from Gold Coast where from behind this guy is shot, but it's in front of a mirror so the shooter can look him in the eye as he kills him.
Yeah. So Raylan drives into town. He meets Nikki, and they basically go back to where Nikki and the Zip are staying. Raylan releases the guy that he was holding up in the trunk, who seems completely confused. And Raylan kind of gives himself up, and they take him into a room where Robert G. is, who's totally fine. So they're hanging out for a few minutes, but then the Zip and Nikki come in and basically demand to know, okay, where's Harry? And Raylan says, first he's not really sure, but probably Genoa. Nikki is holding a gun at Robert G. and they're threatening Robert G. with, they're threatening Raylan, look, if you don't tell us what we want to know, we're going to shoot your friend here. Basically, the Zip tells Nikki to do it, and he's not, and Raylan keeps saying Genoa. Finally, the Zip takes the gun from Nikki, kills Robert G. and asks Raylan again, and gets the same answer. They went to Genoa.
No, poor Robert.
Yeah. So Robert's dead.
So because of that, Robert isn't like a full... I feel like he's like such a side character because he's like snuffed out so soon.
Yeah.
And also this scene, to me, they kind of just release Raylan.
Well,
we won't find out till later, but yeah, it's like such an like all the bad guys and the good guys are like having a showdown, and they're just like, okay, bye.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of an odd.
It is a lot. We don't know it right away. What happens? We jump back to Miami. Harry is there. He's talking to Buck, and they're trying to figure out like, where's Raylan? And
I like Harry's complaining. He's like, I should never have left Italy.
Harry, no, I mean, this is where he just becomes, as it goes on, more and more and more of a dick.
I love the conversation between Gloria and Nikki, where she basically reveals to him that these Italians have been calling him like all kinds of names. Yeah, my favorite one is where he says, well, what about testa de cazzo? He calls me that. What's it mean? And Gloria says, dickhead. Really? That's the only one I thought was okay because my name's in it. Testa. It means dickhead. It's just so good.
No, we'll get into them. So Harry and Buck are chatting. Then we find out Nikki and the Zip are back. And Nikki's pretty much telling Jimmy Cap to get rid of the Zip. They're...
Did you like, he said Tommy was too busy with his hooer.
Oh, with his hooer, exactly.
Which if you want to know how that's spelled, it's right in the book. It's perfect.
It's perfectly spelled, exactly what they're saying. So we're kind of reconnecting back in Miami. Harry and Joyce are
It's another classic Harry moment, too. He tells her a story about being blacked out on an airplane and not knowing where it was headed. And so he asks the woman next to him, and she says, we're going to Vegas. And Joyce says, that was me. I was the woman.
I feel like he actually described her as he asked an old woman.
Oh, he says, you were wearing your hair different.
Yeah.
He still won't give it up, yeah.
No. But then at night, there's a man... heads over to Joyce's apartment wearing a suit and a little cowboy hat, just like Harry Truman used to wear. We know that it's Raylan. They embrace. And we do hear in the morning, like, what happened. And we do hear why.
Yeah, I jumped the gun a little bit, but it is kind of odd. Raylan's just like, yeah, they kind of left, and I walked out of there, told the police, but by the time they showed up, Robert's body was gone. So I just came home.
Right. And I think it's sort of like, what it feels like is their expectation is like, well, Raylan doesn't have any power here, any jurisdiction, and we're going to take care of it. It's not going to go anywhere. Killing Raylan would probably be more trouble than it's worth for them, and so they walk, and Raylan gets himself back to the States. They're hanging out, and as they're hanging out, getting friendly, getting familiar, Harry calls. Joyce does not say that Raylan is there. It's very clear that Harry's drinking again. He's just more and more annoying, and he's complaining about everything. We hop over to Jimmy Cap's place, where poor Gloria. Jimmy Cap is described as being about 350 pounds. Happens to be on top of Gloria. Happens to be on top of Gloria at the moment, because they're doing it in a way that it's the only way that works for Jimmy Cap. So God bless. What to do about Nikki and the Zip?
Well, like he complains about, he's like, people these days, they don't want to work like they used to, basically.
Right. And all we've seen him do is eat, drink, and basically try to climb on top of Gloria. So he is no model.
I love that whole thing. I guess it's like a cliche that every generation is like, people these days not like it used to be. And I was looking it up because I remember seeing like a whole Twitter thread on it that like went back to the 1800s of like newspaper articles that said the same thing.
Oh,
but apparently, according to Wikipedia, the oldest version of that, they said, is Socrates lamented the moral decay and lack of respect among the youth.
Both Gloria and Nikki really here, like they start to really kind of flout Jimmy. Maybe not directly in front of him, but it just seems like they're really not worried about what he thinks, and that kind of, we'll see more and more of it. But Raylan shows up at Jimmy Cap's and tells him, leave Harry alone. Jimmy Cap says that he will if Raylan gets rid of, one way or another, the Zip. And Nikki, and this is the other thing too, Nikki is not bright, and so he lets it slip that Gloria's actually going to go meet the Zip at his house. I would think there would be some sort of immediate action if Jimmy Cap heard that his girlfriend is going to go see this guy who, number one, works for him, and number two, he wants out of the picture. But he doesn't really respond at all. It turns out the Zip does live pretty close to Harry, which I think is a nice touch. They live about a block apart. The Zip and Gloria are chatting. She's flirting. He's playing it cool. And then she tells him that Gloria tells the Zip that Nikki wants to kill the Zip. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's all starting to get pretty messy.
It's really messy, but the Zip doesn't seem to be too concerned about it. He's like, "Hey, I gotta kill somebody. You want to help?" And at first she's like, "Oh, geez, I don't know." But then she asks, "Well, can I be there?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. Like you're gonna bring me my gun." So,
well, I think she sees Tommy as the only guy who will follow through on his actions.
Yeah, but it's interesting to me that the Zip would want to deal with her. He doesn't respect her, and yet, because of the way that she flirts with him and she flirts with Nikki, he doesn't respect her, and yet he's okay with her being part of this plan to kill Harry. Basically, he's going to call Harry up, tell him to meet in a public place. The Zip will prove to him he doesn't have a gun on him, and then Gloria is going to drop one off, and then that's going to be the end of Harry. So he's really trusting her. And she agrees. And we know, maybe other people, maybe the people around her don't know, but it really does feel like she's got a big mouth in terms of what she's saying and who she's saying it to and when. So the fact that the Zip is trusting
she gets in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the scene with Jimmy and Raylan when Jimmy asks him, Jimmy Cap says, you ever take your hat off?
Yeah.
And Raylan says, not for you or anybody like you. Just roasts him.
Yeah, that's the thing where it's it's a question that you think of a lot whenever you're reading about Raylan or watching Raylan. Is he really a good guy? Because it does seem like once he makes a decision that you're a bad guy, he will kill you. And, there's a little bit of a vigilante to him. There's a little bit, not quite murderer, but it's a really fine line that he walks. And
for sure.
Which is part of why he's such a great character.
Well, now he's decided Tommy is irredeemably bad because of how he killed Robert.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and 100%, 100%.
And actually, the next scene when Raylan walks up to Tommy and basically gives him the 24 hours, he says, "Leave town. I don't care how you do it. Leave town in 24 hours, or I'm going to shoot you."
Yeah, be out of the county. Be out of the county in 24 hours, or
which is like an old west, like, leave by sun up or something.
Yeah, and so that clock is ticking.
But I like it goes from that to Raylan and Joyce getting Chinese food to bring to Harry's house, and I love the internal monologue of Raylan saying he couldn't think of anything he didn't like to eat, though in the Chinese food line he'd only had chop suey in the other one. That, I think, is my favorite line in the entire book. It's so funny to me.
That's great. And they got to figure out like what to do about Harry. Joyce is basically saying she's going to end it with him, and they're trying to figure out what it is exactly they're doing. But in Joyce's mind, it's over with Harry. So Raylan goes to wait outside while Joyce breaks up with Harry, and Raylan is kind of hanging out. He's he's in a little bit of a gay cruising spot, and he sees McCormick wandering about.
This is the same spot where La Brava had a big fight with Richard Nobles in La Brava.
Oh, yeah.
The same park, yeah.
Oh, hilarious. So McCormick, not totally clear what he's doing. He looks somewhat...
It kind of reminds me of that scene in The Wire where...
with the Colonel?
Yeah. Like the one shot in the gay club and it never mentioned again.
Yeah. McCormick recognizes Raylan. Raylan's not wearing his hat, so it takes McCormick a minute. And basically tells him the Jimmy Cap investigation is over, calls him Raymond, and walks off. So
I love the next part with Jimmy Cap wanting to go to Butterfly World, which is a real place. It's the largest butterfly museum in the world.
The second best butterfly place is not even close. So yeah, he wants to go to the butterfly house with Gloria, basically insists on it. At this point, he knows about Gloria and the Zip. And so this is where I'm kind of like, well, why wouldn't he just get rid of her?
He basically says, "You're coming with me. I don't care what your plans are. You're going to Butterfly World, or you can hit the road." And she says, "You don't mean that, do you?" And he said, "Try me," with maple syrup on his chin.
He does insist, and he insists on Nikki driving them. He's got his own plans. Raylan and Joyce are having breakfast. Raylan tells Joyce the plan. This is another thing that I didn't love, was basically he's asking her to help him in terms of what he's got in mind for the Zip. So the plan is basically Joyce is going to meet the Zip at the spot that the Zip was supposed to meet Harry at, and then take him to our old stomping grounds, the Cardozo. He's expecting Gloria to show up with a gun. So Joyce meets him there, and then the Gloria does show up with the gun in a bag. The maitre d' is like, "Oh yeah, they're not here, they're over there at a different cafe." And
well, I like that Raylan was correct about this, but also like Tommy shows up and like opens his coat, like he could have easily just had a gun somewhere else. It's very funny to me that he comes up with this kind of dumb plot to get a gun delivered to him.
So while they're getting settled in, we head back to Jimmy Cap's house. It's Nikki and Jimmy Cap. And Jimmy Cap seems to be a bit confused by all this. Everyone seems to be doing whatever they want around him. They seem to be ahead of him, running games on it, and he knows it, and he's okay with it. Which
he basically says, like, you can't be too serious, you can't be too stuck in your ways like Tommy is. Like, that's not you can't run an organization like that. But
maybe
I think the flip side is that he's too loose.
Right. I definitely think that. We'll see how it works out for Jimmy Cap, but so Joyce and the Zip arrive at the Cardozo where Harry is, and it looks like Harry's on his third drink already. He's drunk. The Zip kind of pulls up his jacket, twirls around, showing him he doesn't have a gun, and Raylan and Gloria show up pretty quickly after that. Harry and Joyce get up, and it's about 1:15, 1:30 as this is happening, and pretty quickly, at least on my part, I'm curious what you thought, Alex. I thought there would be more of a interrogation. I guess more of what you expect out of a cop confronting.
I think he's realized that the conversation is meaningless now that he knows Tommy's like a cold-blooded killer.
Yeah.
He doesn't care that Harry's innocent. He still wants to shoot him. So to him, it's like the public good is like, look, I'll let this guy leave town if he wants, and if he doesn't, then that's enough for me.
And he pretty much just tells him, hey, man, you've got a few minutes to leave because you need to be out of the county.
And he keeps kind of speeding up the countdown.
Right. He knows, he's well aware that Glory brought him a gun, and he's just pushing him to reach for it. And at a certain point, the Zip realizes this is how it's going to go down. Like, this guy's not backing off.
This is a classic Elmore, like, kind of subversion of one of these tropes, like the shootout between the good guys and the bad guys. It's like one of these Western setups, except it's two guys sitting at, like, a cafe in South Beach.
Joyce and Harry are watching the whole thing. Harry yells as Zip goes for his gun. He's got a gun, and Raylan shoots him 3 times and kills him. And this scene is essentially the opening scene from the TV show Justified, where you have Raylan, one of my favorite actors who plays pretty much only villains, Peter Green.
He's fantastic. It's too bad he's only in the show for like 12 seconds.
5 minutes, yeah. But you always buy him. You always buy him as a...
But how lucky is that show that their pilot episode is like a full Elmore Leonard short story and then this cherry-picked fantastic scene? Like, of course the show works.
Yeah, we were very lucky to get to speak to Graham Yost. It was an awesome conversation. Please check it out if you haven't heard it. Graham is the executive producer, creator, and showrunner of Justified. And he was really kind to come on the pod and give us a lot of great stories about the making of Justified and meeting Elmore and talking about Raylan with him. Very, very cool if you haven't heard that podcast. Anyway, back to the book. We're back at Wolfie's.
Yeah, we're kind of back where we started with Harry and Buck Torres.
Harry's eating his Jell-O.
That's, well, the final line. It's just a sweet old guy, Torres says, aren't you? Harry shrugged, eating his Jell-O. It's so different than Rum Punch, which was the book that came out right before this one, had such a dramatic, the relationship is the end of it, and they're kind of riding out into the sunset, and this is old guy eats Jell-O. But to me, it's kind of perfect, though, because, like I've said, if Harry Arno was starting off as kind of the Elmore stand-in, clearly Raylan became that.
Yeah.
And to me, that's seems like Elmore's like ethos here is like, just because he's hitting his stride in his 60s doesn't mean that he doesn't have, another 20 years of writing some of his best books ahead of him. It's pretty remarkable.
Oh my God, yeah. There's a great little thing a little touch I really loved where, Harry was a little annoyed that, we do learn that they're at Wolfie's, this deli. There's a Harry Arno sandwich. Harry is he can't eat it anymore, but he's very proud of it. After he shoots Earl Crow in the parking lot, he was only described in the newspaper as a South Beach resident. And then at the very end, the newspaper article claims that, he warned Raylan that this bad guy had a gun.
Well, I like that too. He shouted he had a gun, though. He shouts he had a gun, and they're like, we don't know who he was talking about.
But also, he's still described, though, as a South Beach resident. And that I thought was just, a really nice touch. Harry, God bless him. That's all you can really say. But Joyce and Raylan do end up together. They're going to try to make a run for it. He's going to introduce her to his 2 sons. Maybe Shaq.
I love that they talk about the names, where Winona named them Ricky and Randy after some modern country singers, and he wanted to name them... George and Hank after some old country singers.
Yeah, George Jones and Hank Williams, and then it was Randy Travis and
Ricky Shelton. Yeah, but this book, when I first read it, it wasn't one of my favorite ones. I think because talking to Elmore about it, it's, Harry is kind of a prickly character, but rereading it this time, I enjoyed it so much more. I think some of the weirder ones are better on the second reading.
Yeah.
I think, of course, Raylan is a fantastic character, and there's some outstanding scenes, but I think I really appreciated the kind of humor and all the stuff about Ezra Pound I thought was kind of fascinating and a really interesting way to talk about the past, especially since we just did Freaky Deaky, And those are people who are just like obsessed with the past, as Harry kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a different way to interpret it or kind of live your life or think about things that have happened and not let your life be consumed by them. So I really enjoyed reading this book this time.
It's a fun read. It's a great read. Do you think that, and we are going to be Writing the Rap, and we'll probably talk about Fire in the Hole, even though it's a short story, but we might as well talk about it as sort of the Raylan, the pre-Justified Raylan books and short story. Do you think Elmore cracked Raylan in this book? Do you think it's more in Writing the Rap where?
I mean, I always liked Writing the Rap more. I thought that was like such a fun, like kind of great encapsulation. Like that one that I think it has like a full circle, like great plot as well as great characters. Whereas the actual machinations of the plot in this book, I don't know if they're quite as interesting.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to getting back to that one as well.
But yeah, Raylan is great. I mean,
is great.
It's wild that Elmore was 66 when he, came up with this character.
I mean, the big question, do you think, I mean, I want to know your opinion, and I'm just curious to hear what you think, what Elmore's opinion was. At the end of the day, was Raylan a good guy with his body count?
I think Elmore would say he is. I think it's like he's a Wild West sheriff, basically.
Yeah.
He's got that like frontier justice aspect of him. I mean, I think by a modern lens, like, yeah, he's a little trigger happy.
Well, it's the thing where like each instance, and this is something that gets
Elmore does give him an out though. He gives people warning. They have weapons. They have intent to kill him. I think that's all kind of convenient, but I would still say he's a good guy. I think he is trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's another aspect to Raylan that yes, there's the frontier, justice, old time lawman vibe. But there's also a vibe, and especially in this book, because he's going to Europe on his own dime on vacation of a private eye. Mm-hmm. So there is a moral aspect to what he's doing, and I think if I don't think he would have done anything to the Zip if he hadn't killed Robert G.
Yes,
I think he would have warned him, but that was the thing. So I don't think Raylan is a murderer. I don't think he's a bad guy, but he's got.
Well, they talk about in this book numerous times about people giving their word. That's to me one of the themes of this book, because Harry gave Raylan his word that he wouldn't kind of duck out. And that's what kind of stuck in Raylan's craw was, you gave me your word when you left me in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And Nicky gives his word that he's going to shoot Raylan. Jimmy Cap gives Raylan his word that he'll forget about Harry if Raylan takes care of Tommy. It's basically like all of these people saying like, I promise. And almost, none of them are real, right, except for Raylan. Raylan's the only guy in the book where when he says, I promise, he really means it.
Yeah. To be fair to Jimmy Cap...
well, we don't know. He didn't have the time to follow.
No, because Jimmy Cap went out the Lou Grassi way. Nicky, as Jimmy Cap, is getting ready to go to the insectarium at the Butterfly House. Nicky shoots him in the back of the head. Jimmy sees it coming through the mirror. And Nicky and Gloria are temporarily running things. We don't really expect much to happen, but yeah.
It's the whole book. Nicky's been saying he's gonna shoot so and so. He's gonna light a gas station attendant on fire. He's gonna kill Tommy.
Yeah. And
the only person he actually kills is an unarmed man in his own bathroom with his back turned. So yeah. I think that's
Well, this is a hell of a book. I'm very curious where you're gonna put it. Why don't you go first?
To me, I think I'm going to... this is a tough one, man. I might have to put it just below Freaky Deaky.
But Freaky Deaky's in the middle for you.
Well, Freaky Deaky was at number 4. So middle section, yeah. But so now I've got Freaky Deaky 4, Pronto 5.
We'll start at the top. Your number 1 is still Rum Punch.
No, Swag. Swag is 1. Rum Punch is 2. Yeah, and those two so far have been my favorites for sure. And then Out of Sight 3, Freaky Deaky 4, Pronto 5, Ombre 6, Split Images 7, Cuba Libre 8, Touch 9.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, these are all, I would put, for me, I would put this,
I mean, our lists are diverging more and more, Judd. This is great. This is exactly what I wanted.
well, like, I don't think they're that far off, but there are some key distinctions.
Well, you've got Swag at the top, right? Or no, did you have Freaky Deaky at the top?
I moved Freaky Deaky ahead of Swag, yeah. Wow. And for me, this is a hair ahead of Cuba Libre.
All right, so give me the run. Let's start at 1. Let's do the. What's your full list?
All right, hang on. So Freaky Deaky 1, Swag 2, Touch 3.
Okay. Wow. This list is already completely different than mine.
I know. Out of Sight 4, Ombre 5, Pronto 6. Yeah. Cuba Libre 7, Split Images 8, and
Or you missed Rum Punch.
oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, so Split Images would be 8, and then yeah, so Rum Punch would be 5, and then Ombre, then Pronto.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, it's sort of like,
Well, I enjoyed reading every one of these books. So
for sure, yeah, and it's sort of like you have to think pretty hard about. I mean, it's small things I didn't love. There's like just a handful of things that I'm like, well, I think Jimmy Cap should not have these people around for so long, or these guys. The Zip and Nikki would have killed each other sooner, or Glory would have been a problem sooner. So like, it's just little stuff.
I mean, most of that doesn't bother me. It's really more the, I think anytime you switch locations, you lose a little bit of momentum. Some of these books can pull it off better than others, I think, but...
And there's a lot of locations in this book, because we have Miami, Milan, then Rapallo, and then back to Miami. Like there's a handful of these.
But the Jimmy Cap thing is a good example, because I finished reading this book a couple weeks ago, and I was like, kind of going through it again to like do a quick reread, and halfway through I was just like, wait, what the hell happens to Jimmy Cap? Like I'd already forgotten, you know, because it's just like squeezed in there near the end.
Yeah. And maybe this is just more like, there's no reason to really think that Jimmy Cap is more important than he is, but I think we're just kind of used to, because anytime there's like a gang leader and there's a mob boss, that this is a really important character, when in fact
he's got like
not.
a history in these books. Yeah.
He's not an important character, but I think you just kind of like, the importance of the mob is it's always, it's just always on your mind. And so I think I was maybe expecting a little bit more from him when there's no reason to. I mean, it's just, there's nothing in the book that says we should expect it. But I always think of the Firm. I think we only meet the actual gangsters at the very end, in the last few scenes. And it's Paul Sorvino and another gentleman whose name I can't remember. They are so powerful, and basically, if you haven't seen the movie The Firm, I'm gonna ruin it for you, but Tom Cruise gets out of all of his troubles by basically signing them as clients, and then he can't reveal there's attorney-client privilege, and at the end they're a big part of the climax. And in this case, it's just,
well, it's like I was mentioning, I like that the Italian side of the mob seems to have like full control and gets their stuff done, and the American side is like, everybody's double crossing each other and they can't do anything.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's the kind of book that, I think this is probably the third time I've read it, and as we go through, I mean, we know the books pretty well, but it helps to stop and take notes so we kind of remember things. It's the things that jump out at us that we think are really remarkable. And I found myself having to slow myself down, because I just, even though I pretty much knew what was happening, I just wanted to read it for fun and for pleasure. Mm-hmm. And it
is a very entertaining book.
Yeah. It's just one of the great
But also
ones.
We've got Riding the Rap, the story goes on. I am glad that Harry's back in that book, because I feel like he has a full, you kind of don't like him, and then you're like, all right, he's pretty hilarious. I feel like I came around on him by the end.
Yeah, he's somewhat redeemed. But we will cover that in the next episode of the Elmore Leonard podcast. Alex, have a great...
Have a great what?
I don't know.
The Elmore Leonard podcast is produced and edited by Judd Rubin. Music by Greg Ahee. Hosted by Judd Rubin and Alex Leonard. Executive produced by Peter Leonard. Copyright 2025, Elmore Leonard Inc. Please visit us at elmoreleonardofficial.com or send us an email at hello@theelmoreleonardpodcast.com.